friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for part 3 of my new Crochet 101 series. So there's a few reasons why I'm going back and redoing my older videos, but also it just sort of renews it and just reminds you it's all there, especially if people are looking to start afresh, to learn completely from scratch, or they just want to be reminded of the basics. So the last video we left off, we talked about the single crochet, the long single crochet, the back loop only, and the front loop only. Now, if you haven't seen those videos, I will link to the full playlist down below. Make sure you start with the first video, especially if you're brand new to crochet and you've never tried it at all. You want to make sure you get yourself some good hooks. Aluminum is fine. Those are my favorite for shape. Until Patrick started making my own crochet hooks. So he does certain sizes. He'll do like a size G on up from there, and he does sell them on the store, but keep in mind they're far more expensive than anything you can buy. Like the aluminum ones are cheaper, and cheaper yet if you're trying to get away from aluminum is finding these bamboo ones, which were the first ones I got before he started making me the wooden ones out of a nice hardwood. So I will link to the bamboo ones down below if you're interested, and assuming they're still available, because you can get for just maybe up to $10, you can get all the sizes you need in that, and they're all in bamboo. Okay, so let's move on to talking about the half double crochet. So before I get on to showing it to you, I want to make sure you understand how to see it in a pattern, because that's part of the purpose of this video. So right here, I know you won't be able to read all this because of the lighting, but I'll just read it to you. In this pattern that I wrote here, this is my own hat pattern, and I sometimes make these and put them up on my store. I probably will be doing some soon. There's a part in here, like right here. So we've got, this is something I forgot to mention in previous videos, is the slip stitch. So slip stitch is abbreviated as SLST. So whenever you see that lettering, that's what that means. And then, so we're going to slip stitch into the next chain 2 space. So remember, CH, a lot of times you'll see CH, and that means chain. When you're starting a half double crochet as a new row, you're going to start off with a chain 2 if you're doing a full row of half double crochets. And so that chain 2 represents the first half double crochet. You will have learned a little bit of that in the last video. So then here it says 2 HDC in the same space. So that means what happens there is I'm going to end up with 3 half double crochets in that same space that I'm working into. Sometimes space is also going to be abbreviated as just SP. Okay, so now let's get on to learning the stitch itself, and then I'll go on to also showing you some of the taller stitches. I'm going to just go ahead and work on this piece that I have right here that I did in previous videos. So I'm going to get my slip knot on there, and if you want to know how to do that, again, if you're brand new, you need to go back and watch the first 2 videos. And so I'm going to start by doing my working right into this first single crochet here. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can either start with your slip stitch, since I didn't show that before, which is simply going in under your loops of your whatever stitches before, pulling up a loop and just pulling through. Okay, just pulling straight through. That's what we call a slip stitch. So that's going to be a size smaller than your single crochet. If you were to do a single crochet, you would pull up a loop and then wrap and then crochet through it. You don't do that with a slip stitch. You just insert your hook, grab that loop, pull it under the stitches, and then through the loop that's on your hook. That's your slip stitch. So to make your first half double crochet, like I was saying, you're going to do 2 chain stitches like that. That's going to represent your first half double crochet. Then the next of the stitches I will do will be a half double crochet. I'm going to go ahead and move on to that, but I'm going to come back and show you a different way that you can start it than using the chains. That's the way I prefer. So let's do this half double crochet. So the single crochet, you just insert the hook. You don't wrap any yarn over the hook. For the half double, you need to wrap the yarn. That is known as yarn over, which is abbreviated as YO whenever you're looking at stitches. So whenever you see YO, that just simply means wrap your yarn over your hook like that. Now I'm going to put my finger here to keep that yarn from slipping off, insert that into my stitch. Now I'm going to grab and pull up a loop. Now I have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull that yarn over through all 3 loops on your hook. That's your half double crochet. Okay, so let me do it again. Yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, and I'm not doing under back loop or front loop only. I'm just doing a normal one under both of the loops of the previous stitch. Grab and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. One more time, yarn over, insert into the stitch. This could also be counted as a yarn over, but you could I just think of it as grabbing and pulling up a loop, yarn over, and through the 3 loops on the hook. So what happens now is the half double crochet is just a little bit taller of a stitch than your single crochet. Now let me take this out. I'm going to show you how I will start it. This is one of the harder ways to start a stitch, but I like the finished result better. So I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to move my finger over there and hold that in place. I'm going to insert. So basically I'm actually starting with a half double crochet. Notice my finger is anchoring this down, and I'm pinching here to hold all that yarn in place. It's a little more difficult doing this than the slip stitch and the chain too, because it just feels a little bit more awkward. But I always do this. It doesn't matter if I'm starting off with a double crochet, a single crochet, a half double crochet, or a treble crochet. I start them all the same. So I loop under the yarn like that, then quickly move my finger over to anchor it down, insert the hook, pull up a loop, move my finger back over like that. Yeah, you need that a little bit more. And then after I go yarn over, I pinch this like that to keep it from, getting away from me, and then pull it through. And so that's how I start with a half double crochet and avoid using the chains. It's all a matter of choice. Some people might find this just too cumbersome and hard to work with. This starting off with the appropriate chain will be just fine. So now let's move on to the double crochet, which is a little taller yet than the half double. So I'm going to go ahead and start it the traditional way, which would be a slip stitch and then 3 chains. 3 chains represents a double crochet. So then to do the double crochet, you're going to wrap, just like with the half double crochet, insert the hook, pull up a loop. Now just like with the half double crochet, you have 3 loops on your hook. I'm going to keep my finger on this one loop here, because when I do my yarn over, I'm going to only pull it through under 2 loops. Now I've got 2 loops on the hook again. Anchor those down, yarn over, pull through the last 2. So now I've got a taller stitch yet. Okay, so again, yarn over, anchor it in place with my finger, insert the hook into the stitch, grab that yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Let me do one more in slow motion. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, okay, yarn over, pull through 2. Notice I keep putting my finger in place to keep that from slipping off. Yarn over, pull through the last 2. Okay, so now let me start this the way I normally like to start. Of course, this doesn't work for your taller stitches when you're doing repetitive rows back and forth. You would still have to stick with the chain stitch as your first double crochet. But if I'm going to start it, I'll do my wrap, I'll insert like that, hold that in place, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I have a real double crochet instead of just a chain. However, if I want to come back and do another row, of double crochets, I can't use that method. It just doesn't work because, well, you're already connected, and so you have to have a way to extend your to add that stitch without having to break your yarn or cut your yarn and then start again. So because that would just be silly. So in that case, whenever I'm doing that, I do stick to using the chain as my first double crochet. So let me show you how that works, because this is important to know. So you turn your work. Actually, so the first thing you do before you turn is you're going to do 3 chain stitches. Then you turn. Now, since this represents the first double crochet, you're not going to double crochet into this stitch here. Okay, you have to skip that one and go to the next one, because if you double crochet into this stitch when this chain is already here representing it, you're going to end up with an extra double crochet here. And so what will happen is, let's just say you're making something, you want it to be square, you're not trying to taper it out, you're going to end up with more stitches and it's going to get progressively wider and wider. Now, if you're wanting to do an increase and intentionally make it a little wider each time for maybe a shape that goes like that, then yes, you're going to crochet into this first stitch as well. So that, and then you would do 2 crochets, double crochets in the last one here. That would be considered an increase. So you're going to make it wider. So let's move on from here, starting where we left off here. I don't know how many stitches. Let me pull a couple of those out so we can start afresh. So I'm just going to start from right here. I'm going to have my next row be half treble crochet, which that's rare, but it does happen. So we're going to do 4 chains, and you might have guessed it, it's a combination of the half double crochet and the double crochet. So you're going to wrap the yarn over twice before you start, insert the hook into your stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 3. That would be a half treble crochet. So that would be written as HTC. The next one then, since I've already slowed down these stitches and you might be starting to figure out how this works and doing the math, let's go ahead and go to the treble crochet. So I'm going to yarn over twice. So that'd be written in a pattern as YO2, the number 2, and then X as times. That might be how it will be written. Or they might just say YO twice. It just depends on the pattern and who wrote it. So yarn over twice, insert the hook, pull up a loop. Okay, you now have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That would have been a double crochet if we didn't have any more loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through the last 2. Okay, so you can see by looking at this stitch, I'm not sure if it's showing very well, but this stitch here is just a little taller than this one here, which would have been the half double crochet or the half treble crochet. So yarn over twice. I'll show this one more time. Insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. There's your treble crochet. And yep, you guessed it, it can keep getting higher and higher and higher. Typically when it comes to a stitch though, you're not going to see much that's going to go past a treble crochet. Usually after that point, then just chains are used to make longer type stitches. And you can see that a lot when you're working with things like this shawl. I'll show you a picture right here of this shawl. That shawl incorporates quite a bit of both chains and treble crochets. Okay, so now I want to move on and I'm going to show you 2 more stitches. So, because once you have these taller stitches, especially something that's a double crochet in particular is where you're going to see this be used. You've got something that's called post stitches that have a real nice effect depending on, especially when you're making sweaters. So I'm going to show you a couple of sweaters. I've got baby sweaters where I've used this post stitch to make a nice pattern that would represent something that you would see in knitting where you have a cable knit stitch. So how you do that is when you go to do your double crochet, so we're just going back to double crochets. So a front post stitch, so I've got my yarn over right now. Instead of working into the stitch this way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work around the post of the previous stitch, thus the name. Okay, you're working around the post, so I'm coming in underneath and behind. This is called a front post stitch. And then I finish out my double crochet as normal. Now the next stitch, if I'm going to do I have this one as a post stitch, most likely the next stitch is going to be just a normal double crochet. And then I go back to doing a front post stitch on the next one. So what you're going to see happen here is you're going to start seeing this kind of pattern coming out here. Okay, and again, let's do a couple more. Just a normal double crochet there. And then the front post stitch coming from the front. That's why it's called front post stitch. Okay, now I'm not sure how well this is going to show up in the camera, especially with the darker yarn, but you've kind of got a cable going here. And so this is something that can be continued all the way through, or you can have it be just for this 2 rows and then do some like single crochets and then do a couple rows of using the post stitch so that you can break up your design. Okay, so let me do one more stitch. Actually, let me finish this whole row out here using this pattern, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you the back post stitch. So that would be used if you're continuing this kind of cable pattern all the way up through all of your rows. To keep using this pattern, this one here was just a regular stitch, so I'm going to do a regular stitch into that one. That wasn't a post stitch. But this next one here, I'm looking at the back side of the front post stitch. So to keep that pattern looking the same when I go to the other side, when I look at it from the other side, I'm going to do a back post stitch. Instead of coming from the front, I'm going to come from the back like this, going around the post, pulling up a loop, and then pull through 2 and pull through 2. Next stitch would be just a regular plain double crochet. Next stitch, I'm going to go from the back of the previous row front post stitch, doing a back post stitch. Okay, and then I'll finish this out. I'll do another one slowly so you can see how that works. Just in case it's not a good enough image the first time. So wrap, insert from the back and around that post, pull up a loop, okay, and then pull through 2 and pull through 2. Okay, and then next one's a regular stitch, and then a post stitch, and then a regular double crochet into the starting chain, so that on the third chain of the starting chain. Okay, and then I do chain 3 and turn. Okay, so now let's look at this. So now this might be showing up to you a little bit better. Can you see how that pattern's coming out, where you can see that cable knit look to it? So that's how you make that using crochet. But in crocheting, it's known as a post stitch. You know, if you're going to keep going, then you go back and forth between using a front post stitch, then a back post stitch on the next row. Front post stitch and back post stitch. Okay, so that's my stitches for today. Again, I'm not sure if I'll do any more videos on this. I might look over some of my older videos and decide to redo those as well. But mostly my goal was to get the first 3 parts done, and I think I did actually add more stitches to this one than I had in my old part 3 video. But I do again recommend getting yourself some good crochet books. One nice thing about some certain crochet books is a lot of them will show you in the back how to perform certain types of stitches. So like right here. It's giving you examples of how to make chains, how to make the single crochet, the half double crochet, and so on. So some of your good pattern books will show you the basic stitches in the back as well. I think it can be helpful for many though to have something that's a live action as opposed to still shots. Now I was able to learn from a book just fine. I never had anyone teach me. I bought myself a book called Learn to Crochet in a Day, which I will also link in the description box down below. It's beneficial to have some books on hand as well. So I was able to learn it all from just looking at the pictures in the diagram and doing it that way. And that book was very helpful. I literally learned how to do quite a bit in one day just from that book, and got busy immediately on making my first Afghan, a mile a minute Afghan, using stitches like double crochets and clusters and so on and so forth. So you should see some of those in the following videos, but if I go through them and find some of my older videos I don't show all that, I will make sure to go ahead and shoot a fourth part to this where I demonstrate some more of the pattern type stitches that are going to be different. So I hope you're enjoying this series, especially if you're new to crochet or you just haven't done it in a long time, or maybe you're just wanting to learn how to read patterns and how to read the abbreviations. Okay, oh, and by the way, I do have a couple, I keep meaning to get around to writing out more, but I have a couple of my own original patterns up on our Etsy store. I have one on how to make the fingerless gloves, that also on how to turn that into the full mitten, and then another one on how to make a beret. And in that pattern I show several variations of how you can make it a more tight knit, warmer beret, or a looser, lacier kind of beret, if you're interested in some patterns on and learning how to make a few of those things for yourself. Okay, well, I hope you're enjoying this series. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.